Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Express Highway 7969. Am I the a-hole for not honoring my wife's dying wish? Posting from a throwaway account. 6 years ago, my wife passed away after a short illness. The day before she passed away, it seemed as though she may pull through. She said to me, "If I die, you're not allowed to date." I laughed and promised I wouldn't. Both of my daughters were there when she said it. That night, things went horribly downhill and she was gone by noon the next day. I've spent the last 6 years raising my girls and finally sent my youngest off to college in August. I have been involved in a few support groups for people who've lost spouses for the last few years, and earlier this year, I really connected with a woman who lost her husband around the same time. I wasn't looking for a relationship, but we have been on a few dates and I've been trying to keep it concealed, at least in the meantime. We ended up going to a restaurant and our server was one of my older daughter's friends from high school. She must have called or texted my daughter because last night my daughter called to scream at me and basically told me I was cheating on her mother and I had no right to dishonor her request of me. I am pretty furious she called me like that and I had to hang up and told her I'd call her in the morning when I've had time to reflect. Now all I can think of is how horrible I am for this. I'm 45 years old and I need companionship, but I don't want my daughters to think I'm spitting on their mother's grave. My wife's sister also texted me to tell me that my wife's request was unreasonable and unfair and that her family is not going to judge me if I move on and she would talk to my daughter about it. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my kids over this, but I am so damn torn. Am I the a-hole for not honoring her request? Well, Peep, I don't think your question applies because I really don't think your wife expected you to never date again if she ever passed away. I'm sure she was joking, but for a very sad, 12 to 15-year-old girl, I would say, yeah, she might take it as is. And seeing you date someone now would upset her. I think you need to talk to her and help her understand that's not how this is. That you have a life and that you have to keep living it. And that her mom was joking. It might take her some time to understand or not, but maybe she needs some help grieving. Maybe in the past 6 years she hasn't worked through it properly and hanging on to it through you. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Groovy Yaya says, quote, "Sweetheart, do you remember that I laughed and Mom and I talked about other things? It was a joke between us. I'm sorry that you took it seriously. I had no idea. I've not dated because I was focused on you two and I wasn't ready. I will always love your mother. No one can erase that. But losing your spouse and losing your mom are two different things. Our paths on the grief journey aren't the same, although they are parallel and involve the same person. You lost a mom, but I lost a companion. I'm lonely. The woman your friend saw me with isn't even someone I'd call a girlfriend yet, but a friend. Someone I met in a support group for people who have lost spouses. Am I not to even talk to women, have friends? Am I supposed to wait in the house for crumbs of contact from you and your sister and wait to join your mom? I've tried very hard to raise you two and want you to go off to college and establish your life and not worry about me. But you screaming at me tells me that maybe I was wrong and not showing you a little bit of what it has been like for me more. I'm sorry you are upset. Maybe we can do some counseling together. Double Swimming 8845 says, firstly, none of us know your wife personally, but was she maybe trying to make a joke when she said not to date anyone after her? Secondly, you're not the a-hole for this. You're allowed to move on. You're 45. Your daughter is completely insane to think that you're not going to date or see anyone else. I do think you did the right thing to wait until your daughters were grown, though, to start dating. You're allowed to love other people. That doesn't mean you don't love their mother anymore. It's just a part of healing and moving on. Right at 3026 says, it is not cheating and it was not a fair request from your wife. Your daughter is overreacting. It's been 6 years and you are allowed to date again without guilt. 45 is still young and you should have companionship if you want it. Listen to your sister-in-law. Maybe have a talk with your daughters about how it's been 6 years and you are lonely for companionship and their mom will always be loved and remembered, but she's no longer here and you need to keep living and be happy again. Particular Team 5208 says, no, you made an unreasonable promise during a time of pain. To your children, I'd say this. Are you willing to move home and be my companion 24/7? Help alleviate my loneliness? Watch movies I want to watch? Help splitting all chores, even Steven? Laugh at my stupid dad jokes for the rest of your lives? That was an unfair promise your mother asked of me. How could I respond differently as she was dying? I too need companionship and love. And the Waco Fogey says, not the a-hole, marriage is for this world, not the next, which is why we say, until death do us part. You were a faithful husband, fulfilled your vows, and you are not an a-hole for being human and needing companionship and love. Opie's edit. Wow, thank you for all the comments. I want to clear up that when she said it, I did take it as a joke, and I think she was joking as well. The issue, as pointed out by a few, is that my kids were present and took it seriously. They were 14 and 12 at the time. She had been hospitalized with severe pneumonia and had been on oxygen for 2 days. All signs were pointing to a full recovery, and it was during this time she made the statement. None of us expected her to go downhill so quickly overnight. Also, about my daughter's friend, her intent was not malicious. She's always been a good friend to my daughter, and I think it was probably a, hey, I saw your dad on a date, I'm so happy for him type of situation. I've never known her to be vindictive. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP was not the a-hole, and I think that first commenter just laid it out beautifully. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. I called my daughter this morning and asked her if I can come to her campus for breakfast with her. She goes to school an hour away, so it isn't a bad drive. Apparently, my sister-in-law did talk to her last night and told her she was being irrational and unfair and that I deserved to be happy. My younger daughter, who goes to school several hours away, also told my older daughter it isn't a big deal and I'm allowed to live my life. We had breakfast and walked around her campus for a few hours. We talked about her mom and how much we all loved her and miss her. We had some laughs and cries, and I told her I would never try to replace her mother, and anyone I date would have to get along with my girls. She is still upset, which I acknowledge, but she agrees it's unreasonable to expect me to go the rest of my life alone. She apologized for her reaction and genuinely felt bad that she acted that way. I suggested we go to therapy together to work some of this out, but she's really busy at school so wouldn't be able to until winter break. I feel like I left with her understanding and really hope she won't hold this against me. I was not even looking for a relationship, especially at a support group. We met in March, went on our first date in July, and have only been on 3 more since. We have not even been intimate, so I'm not exactly sure where it's going. I appreciate all of the responses and advice from everyone. Well, OP, it's a good thing that you had that conversation with your daughter. She might still be a little bit upset now, but that's because she's just working through it because she does understand that you are allowed to have a life. I'm sure she'll get there soon enough, and in winter break, you guys get that extra help. So here's wishing you the best, OP. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now, let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I Overreacting, and it's by user RudeWinter9192. Am I overreacting for calling off my wedding after my fiance got drunk, put on my wedding dress, and had an accident in it? This sounds completely ridiculous, but it really happened and I can't stop thinking about it. Some people are telling me I completely overreacted, and I'm starting to question myself. I'm 28 and was supposed to get married last weekend to my fiance, Nick, who is 30. We've been together for 4 years. He's funny and a little impulsive, but I always thought he had good judgment. He drinks socially, but I've never seen him totally out of control until now. The night before our wedding, I stayed at home with my sister and 2 of my bridesmaids for a relaxed night. Nick went out with his groomsmen. I expected him to come home tipsy at most. At around 1:30 in the morning, he came home absolutely wasted, slurring, stumbling, sweaty. I was brushing my teeth when I heard him banging around in the guest room. When I went to check, I saw him dragging my wedding dress out of the closet. I asked what he was doing, and he just laughed and said he wanted to see how it felt to be the bride. I told him to put it back and not touch it, but he was not listening at all. Right in front of me, he stripped down completely and started putting on the dress. He could barely get it over his body and kept tripping over the train. I didn't know what to say. Then he dropped to the floor in the dress, still laughing. Then he went quiet, looked at me with his panicked face and said, "Oh no." A few seconds later, he had an accident. Diarrhea. It soaked through the back of the dress and onto the carpet. The smell was immediate and overwhelming. I stood there in shock while he started crying and tried to get out of the dress, which only made more of a mess. It was all over the fabric, the floor, and him. I told him to get in the shower and I left. I drove straight to my mom's house and didn't take any of his calls. The next morning, I called off the wedding. Since then, Nick has apologized over and over. He said he blacked out and barely remembers what happened. His family is furious with me and says I'm throwing away a great relationship over a drunken mistake. Some of my friends agree and think I should have postponed it instead of canceling. Even my maid of honor said I might be letting emotions take over and that it wasn't unforgivable. But I feel like something broke that night. I didn't just feel disgusted, I felt disrespected. The dress wasn't just expensive, it was important to me. It symbolized something. I cannot unsee what happened. I can't laugh about it or move on like it's just one bad night. I don't know how to look at him the same way. Am I overreacting for calling off the same wedding? Well, OP, in my opinion, it's a bit of a tough one to judge because from one point you could say, yeah, he just had an accident. But it wasn't just the accident. It was everything leading up to it and everything that broke in you. For starters, he showed a very huge lack of judgment for going out drinking the night before the wedding. Like there isn't going to be a party the next day. Come on, man. And I understand that people that are very, very drunk are not in the most rational of places. But trying to put on a wedding dress? Now, maybe the getting sick part wasn't absolutely on purpose, but every one of the decisions that he took leading up to that moment are on him. And you told us that that broke something in you, that you can't see him the way you used to. So I might venture into saying that even though you care a lot about him still, your perception of him is completely different now. So at a minimum, pausing the wedding is the right way to go. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Kat Chu says, is this something that happens often? Does he often get blackout drunk? If yes, consider this a bullet dodged. Either way, it is a little concerning he got blackout drunk the day before your wedding. I think you need to have a conversation to figure out whether this is a relationship worth saving. And Dopey responds, no, this is the first time he's even gotten this drunk in the time I've known him, which is why I think I might be overreacting. Happy Summer Breeze says, people are still themselves when they are blackout drunk. I've seen my husband fend off flirty women when he was so drunk. He was still himself when he ignored you. He was still himself when he wore your wedding dress, something that is obviously special and off limits. The dress is the most important item of the most important day of your life, and he crapped on it. No one forced him to get that drunk, and he was still himself when drunk. Dukul14 says, it's the series of bad decisions that gets me here. First, getting pissed, or in this case, crap, drunk the night before your wedding. 30 years old can't bounce back like a 21-year-old can. Being hungover at your own wedding is a bad look. Go ham at the bachelor party, sure, but maybe keep it to a couple of drinks max the night before. Second, it's deciding to drunkenly put on your fiance's dress. I'll be honest, I'd be terrified to go anywhere near it until after the wedding. I wouldn't want to be the cause of any sort of issue with it, especially with T-minus 24 hours until the wedding. Third, it's the decision to keep going even though you are struggling and ignoring your pleas to stop. Hard to excuse so many bad decisions in such a short time. And Andromeda081 says, you implored him to stop and he did not. With what, 12 or so hours before the wedding? Then it obviously didn't fit and he forced it on. So he was fine with damaging it too. Less than a day before you had to wear it, so there would have been no time to sew up any rips. Then he craps in it and rolled around in it. It's easy for others to say just get over it when they didn't go through all that themselves. They're thinking about I don't even know, the cost of the wedding, not having him on their own lives. Who knows? Don't let their sunk cost become your sunk cost. Seeing all this was a deal breaker for you, so these people need to either accept that or keep their opinions to themselves if they don't. But guilt tripping you about your deal breaker doesn't fly. It's not their lives or future on the line. It's yours. People break up all the time for less. You are not obligated to pledge your life to this embarrassing man. Well, the community definitely agrees that Upi is not the a-hole and that she's kind of dodging a bullet. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. First off, thank you to everyone who responded. I didn't expect the level of attention my post got, and honestly, reading the replies made me feel less alone. Some people told me I was right to call it off. Others said it was a terrible mistake, but not unforgivable. Both sides helped me see the situation more clearly. I spoke to Nick this morning, not for closure, not for a big emotional talk, just to return some things and to check in about logistics since everything's been cancelled. But we ended up sitting down and talking for over an hour. He apologized again, sincerely. He didn't try to defend himself or shift blame. He told me he didn't remember everything clearly, but knows he came home wasted, saw the dress, and in his words, thought it would be funny or meaningful or something. He didn't mean to ruin the dress, he didn't mean to humiliate me, but he did, and he knows that. He said he's ashamed of what happened and how out of control he let himself get. He also admitted this wasn't the first time his drinking led to something bad. He says this was a wake-up call and that he's going to stop drinking entirely. I didn't even know he had a problem. The thing is, I still care about him. We were supposed to get married. I didn't walk away from someone I didn't love, but something inside me cracked that night and it hasn't healed. I don't know if it will. I know it sounds superficial to some people, but for me it was a symbol of our future, of the person I thought I was marrying, and watching him defile it in that state, whether on purpose or by accident, changed something. I've been trying to figure out if that one night should be the end of 4 years together, but it's not really just that one night, is it? It's what it revealed. About how he handled stress, about how far he let himself go, about how I felt standing in that room watching someone I loved almost become unrecognizable. I haven't made a final decision yet. Technically, the wedding is still cancelled, but the relationship isn't officially over. We're on kind of emotional pause, I guess. He says he wants to make things right, and maybe he will. Maybe with time, I'll want to try again. But right now, I still feel like I'm grieving something that ended, and I don't know if I'm ready to build it back from scratch. Well, Upi, whatever decision you end up making, you need to feel 100% certain that you are making it for the right reasons and not because you're pushed or because of sunk cost fallacy like someone mentioned. Just think about your future. And on that note, here's wishing you the best. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Greens051. Spotify support told me to read their refund policy, so I did and forced them to give me a refund. So my Spotify premium renewed today because I forgot to cancel. I immediately checked their refund policy online and confirmed I was eligible, so I cancelled the plan, literally within minutes, and hopped on support chat to ask for the refund. Something simple, right? Wrong. The agent, Christina, gave me the classic runaround. She said the 14-day refund period only applies to your initial sign-up, and since I'd been a member for months, I was out of luck. She even sent me a link to the policy to prove her point, telling me to read it. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. I did exactly what she said. I read the policy, and then I went deeper and found their full legally binding terms of use. And what did I find? in section 3 under withdrawal right, it clearly states you have 14 days after your purchase to withdraw for any reason. A monthly renewal is a new purchase. My own research before the chat was correct. I went back to Christina and quoted the terms of use directly. She put me on hold to check backstage, then came back with the same denial. Her team was doubling down on the incorrect script, so I played my final card. I sent this message. Since this dispute is specifically about the legal interpretation of the withdrawal right in your terms of use, could you please provide the contact information for Spotify's legal department or the appropriate office for handling formal contractual disputes? The change was instant. Suddenly, she had to see what she could do. 5 minutes later, I've managed to ask some support with our backstage team, and we can go ahead and process a refund for you. They folded like a cheap suit. Nicely done, OP. You called their bluff and raised the stakes. That was good enough for them. Thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.